So I want to tell you a little story, and it is something that's helped me cope with my psoriasis, and it might help you cope too. So bear with me. I'm Dr. Catherine O'Leary. I'm a consultant clinical psychologist, and I have psoriasis. So I want you to imagine that you've the responsibility for choosing a new class for a child, a 4 or 5-year-old child. So that could be your child, or it could be a godchild or a friend's child, but you really love this child and you want the best for them. So you've been given this responsibility. So you go visit the school and you meet the head, and the school looks lovely. There's a lovely buzz of activity and there's lots of pictures on the walls and evidence there's lots of fun things going on in the school. And you meet the head teacher, and the head teacher says to you, well, actually, the space is in 2 classes. So why don't you go and have a little look at both classes, and then you can tell me which one you'd prefer your child to join. So she takes you to the first class, and the teacher comes over, and it's a busy classroom, and the children are colouring and cutting things out and sticking, and there's a chatter. And the teacher says to you, oh, I'm so glad you're thinking of bringing your child to our class. I really want the very best for your child. I want them to achieve the best that they can. And with that, there's a terrible clatter. And a little boy at the back of the class has knocked over a cup of water, and it's spilt across the table, and it's soaking into other children's paintings, and there's a real kerfuffle. And the teacher marches over and she says, you silly boy, you did this yesterday, you did this last week. I cannot believe you have knocked over water again. You are not learning. You have ruined everyone else's work. Now I want you to go sit in the corner and think about how dreadful you are. And then the teacher comes back to you and she says, I believe that when children make mistakes, they need to be dealt with swiftly and harshly, and then they learn, and that's what they learn from. And so you say thank you, and you're taken to the next classroom, and it's a similar sort of scene, children involved in lots of little activities, and there's a chatter, and the teacher comes to greet you, and she says a very similar thing. She wants the very best for your child, and she really wants them to do their best and succeed. And so there's another clatter of noise. This time you turn round and a little boy has knocked over a pot of crayons, and they're all over the floor, and some of the children have gotten upset because now there's crayons everywhere. This time the teacher goes over to the little boy and she crouches down and she says, now what happened here? We seem to be knocking things over all the time, don't we? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's pick them up together, let's put them away, and maybe what we should do is keep the pot of crayons on this table in the middle, and then you can just come and get the ones you need, and then you're not knocking them over when you're colouring. And she comes back to you and says, children make mistakes, and I think the best way is for them to learn is to help them see how they can problem solve and deal with it. And you say, thank you very much. And you're taken back to the head's room, and the head says to you, which class do you want your child to go into? Now I want you to think about this for a little moment. You've got this 4 or 5-year-old, you love them, you want them to enjoy school, to learn. Are you going to put them in the first class or the second class? Which class do you think they'll learn best in? Which class do you think they're more likely to try new things? Which class do you think they're going to grow in confidence and self-esteem? Now, if you're like me, I'm guessing you said the second class is a no-brainer. We're not putting them in the first class. They're going into the second class. And the reason I'm telling you this story, if you haven't already worked it out, is that when we have something like psoriasis, we have an internal voice that tells us that we look disgusting, that people are going to think we're contagious, that no one is going to want to be around us. And really what we're doing is we're carrying that first teacher with us in our heads all the time. So when we forget to take our treatments, we tell ourselves we're useless, we'll never learn. When we eat chocolate and we have a few glasses of wine, we tell ourselves it's our fault, that we deserve this psoriasis because we're not living as cleanly as we could be. And here's the thing, that voice isn't helping us. We know if it was someone we loved, we would never speak to them like that, not in a million years. We would speak to them in the way the second teacher speaks to them. Now that doesn't mean you can look, it's not like just thinking positively, like looking in the mirror and saying, this psoriasis looks lovely, because I have psoriasis. I look in the mirror, I know it doesn't look lovely. But what I don't need to do is to be that horrible teacher to myself, to tell myself I look awful, I look dreadful, and no one will want to be my friend. I need to be like the second teacher. I need to say, well, let's make a doctor's appointment. What can we do? What will help? And I would just be kind to myself. So it's a simple story. I hope you get the point. It's not just us with psoriasis. Most people speak to themselves harshly and critically, almost as if they believe they wouldn't be accountable if they didn't do that. But the truth is, people are more likely to make mistakes when they have a critical inner voice. They're less likely to try new things. So we can all benefit from speaking more kindly to ourselves.